What's up? It's your boy D. I'm here with my man T, and this is Saturday Morning Traffic, the greatest podcast, not the latest podcast. And today on the Full Court Series edition, we discussing the point guard edition. So we're going Steve Nash against John Stockton. There, right there. But one thing I do want to say is we got a special guest. It's my man Carlos. I used to work with this guy. Since he left, we parted ways. He done started a business. He been on his fitness. He been getting to it. He been showing you how to do it, and he's showing you how to move. You dig what I'm saying? So I'm going to let Carlos speak himself.
All right, but yeah, let's the Steve Nash and John Stockton legendary comparison because they're pretty close type of player, just different generation and era. And let's get into it, man. Let's get Carlo in here.
Here I am.
Hey, Carlo, there you are. All right.
What's up, my man?
All right, what is Carlo, up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny how long back we go. I mean, Alaska Club, everybody in Alaska, knows in Anchorage that is.
Peace up, A-Town down, baby.
Yeah.
So, Carlo, tell them a little bit about your business and what you guys got going on. And also, congratulations. Carlo just got married, so congratulations to that.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, guys. No, yeah. So I'm way back with Tony and Darren. So I'm back at the Alaska Club. I remember I started working there in 2015, and then I stopped working there in 2018. So I was a personal trainer there for 3 years. And then actually on September 16th was when I started working at the YMCA. I'm as a contractor. So I am the owner of Carlo's Crew LLC, personal training. And we offer a one-on-one training, group classes, and also online personal training as well. So I've been doing that for our 2-year anniversary actually was on June 7th. So 2 years in the making. So
congrats.
Super excited for that. And then just got married. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. And we actually are launching a giveaway contest that's launching tomorrow. So if you guys want to follow Carlo's Crew LLC on Instagram and also on Facebook, all the instructions are right there. All you gotta do is just click the link, type in your email, and then everything is right there. So yeah, super exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Carl. So let's get into this debate. All right, here it is, the big debate. 2 Hall of Fame point guards. All right, let's go with our guest Carlo first.
All right. So just by looking at that photo, even if I didn't know much about basketball, I would be like, John Stockton even looks like he's in way better physical condition than Steve Nash. I mean, look at the bicep, look at the quad and whatnot. So John Stockton is my guy. Okay. Now, I want to talk about my reasoning why. Whenever I decide if someone is better or not, I usually look at how great they were at their best, as in their peak, and then also how long did they do it for. Okay.
Right.
So my argument is that Steve Nash had a peak when he had a really good supporting cast and when he was kind of away from Dirk Nowitzki. Because he spent the first 7 years of his career with the Dallas Mavericks and averaged about 9-10 points a game, 11 points a game, and about 6-7 assists. Okay, that kind of meh numbers. But then when with the Phoenix, obviously, he won the MVP. He finished again, I think in the top 5.
2 MVPs.
Yeah, that's right. 2 MVPs. So great for him. But a lot of people didn't realize that John Stockton averaged 10.5 assists per game for his entire career. He had 9 straight seasons with over 10 assists, and Nash only had that 7 times. Steve Nash averaged more career points. He averaged 14.3 and Stockton 13.1, but that was on 2 more shots per game. Also, too, every single one of those Phoenix Suns teams were always a top 3 offense. The Utah Jazz never finished in the top 5 in offense because they had a defensive-minded, tough, gritty team led by Jerry Sloan. Okay, so different kind of half-court offense, totally different. So of course Nash was going to have more opportunities and whatnot. Steve Nash only averaged 0.7 steals a game. John Stockton has the most steals ever. He averaged 2.2 steals a game, so 1.5 more steals, which is extra possessions for his team. So I'm going to value that all day. Stockton had 11 NBA All-Teams. Nash, 7. Nash made 8 All-Star games. Stockton, 10. Stockton, 5-time All-Defense. Nash, 0. Stockton led the NBA in steals twice. Nash, 0. Stockton had more career points, assists, steals, rebounds, blocks for his career. And also, too, when people say, oh, well, Stockton had Karl Malone. Did you know that John Stockton only had one other player that was an all-star besides Karl Malone? Jeff Hornacek, and that was once. One time.
Sniper.
One time he was an all-star. The other time, Steve Nash had Sean Marion, 4-time all-star. Amari Stoudemire, 6-time all-star. Joe Johnson, 1-time all-star, and he averaged 17 points a game. And Shaq, who also made the all-star game, averaging over 17 points a game. Yes, it was towards the end of his career, but he still actually had a lot of help and was in an offensive system to where they would just, go full court, fast offense. So he really had everything going in his favor. But obviously, based off of all those numbers, John Stockton kind of beats him in every single category too. I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna say, well, Stockton went to 2 NBA finals and Nash didn't even go to one. I don't care about that. Just because, in my opinion, that's more of a team accomplishment and not just one player. Steve Nash, of course, was at a disadvantage playing under Mike D'Antoni, who doesn't believe in defense. So that also wasn't the reason why Nash didn't make a NBA Finals. And for Stockton, he ran into the Michael Jordan-led Bulls twice. Obviously, a top 5 team or greatest team ever. So kind of that's my argument. The Stockton had a higher peak. He had seasons where he averaged over 13 assists. Nash never had more than 11.7 in one season. And also Stockton did it for longer. Was that Nash really had that 5-6 year peak with Phoenix? Stockton did it for 15 years and was at a super high level too. So
I'm going to let D counter because I know he's a Steve Nash guy all the way. Go ahead, take it over, D. What's your counter?
Well, I appreciate your fantastic statistics and great debate. You know what I'm saying? You added the sauce to my Alfredo. Now I'm going to add the chicken and the Parmesan and a little bit of pesto. So I heard what you said about, John Stockton and how he got this, he got that. He was great this, he was great that. But one thing you didn't mention is John Stockton was always the second option on his team, no matter how you look at it. It was mailman, then it was John Stockton picking up the mail. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it was never really John Stockton's team. At one point on the Phoenix Suns, and this is before everybody really got there, once he left from under Dirk Nowitzki's wing, he went and took over. It was literally Steve Nash and whoever else. You dig what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't anybody with him. And then on top of that, if you really want to differentiate the two, yes, he did appear in more All-Star games, but John Stockton was 7th or 8th for 9 years in the MVP race. Steve Nash has 2 MVPs. So regardless,
he also had a lot more competition.
Hold on.
Also had a lot more competition.
I want to say this real quick before D. I just got to say this.
Yeah, I do want to give these.
He should only have 1 MVP.
We're not talking about what it could have.
Kobe averaged 35, 7, and 7. And this guy averaged, 14 and 10 on a better team around him. That's the only knock I have against his team.
And in a defensive league, too.
Okay, I understand
Go ahead,
what both
D.
of y'all saying. I know for a fact that Kobe should only have 4 rings instead of 5 because of that game they played against the Sacramento Kings where he shot how many free throws? Way too many. Thank you very much.
All I got to say is big shot Rob.
You arguing for me. Okay,
big shot Rob.
Arguing for me if you're saying that a win is a win. He won the MVP. So in reality,
that's different though. That's different. Role players win championships. Stars win games. That's the big thing. Shaq even said that. Kobe even said that. So yeah.
He won an MVP with Shaq on his team. He won an
saying,
MVP with
everybody-
Shaq on his team.
Hey, man, everybody
talking
has to have a
about
little
Sacramento.
bit of help. Everybody has to have a little bit of help.
And
Nobody
that's
can do it
perfectly
alone.
and that's perfectly fine. Like I said, he's never won an MVP. He's never won an MVP. That's not the defining statement in my argument. But like I said, he's won 2
Did you know?
MVPs. Not one, 2.
Okay. So I'm a big baseball fan, and for all the listeners out here, I'm guessing you guys know who Hank Aaron is, right?
Yep.
714 home runs. I'm second all time. A lot of people say he's a home run king because Barry Bonds at 762, but obviously with all the asterisks and PEDs. So people say the Hank Aaron home run king. Did you know he never won an MVP? He never won an MVP, and that's arguably the greatest home run hitter of all time. So I'm not going to hold that against Stockton, who's arguably the greatest point guard of all time. Just because, Hank Aaron had 24 years where he was consistent. And that's like Stockton argument. He played 15 years and was consistent. Remember Nash when he played for the Lakers?
That's the tail end of that's the tail end of his career. That's the tail end of his career. But at the same time, that's saying what you just said. He gradually he was consistent. Steve Nash gradually got better. That's like this is a perfect example. That's like, damn, I had it. That's like your parents giving birth to you and then giving you up for adoption, and then trying to take credit for raising you. You can't. Like,
that's quite the analogy.
Yeah.
All right, like you can't sit up here and tell me that Steve Nash wasn't consistent throughout his career. You can't call somebody inconsistent on their decline. They're doing the best with what they got. You see what I'm saying?
Here's the one thing.
Okay, so I'm just saying that that Nash's peak here, like of his MVP seasons and stuff like that, that he didn't keep that consistent peak. That like he was here with Dallas, here with Phoenix, and then here the rest of his career. Stockton was up here his entire career.
The way I look at John Stockton, and this is a great way to look at it as a baseball player, I think of John Stockton as like Cal Ripken, playing every single game. All right. And then when we talk about John Stockton, number 1 in assists all time. And it's not even close. He leads by like 2,000 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 in steals all time. That's not going to be touched either because he's up by like I think 2,000 assists or 2,000 steals also. And the big thing is he was a two-way player, John Stockton.
Yeah.
Steve Nash is more of it is his team, so he had to carry more of offensive load, right? But you look at John Stockton, he averaged 9-10 shots per game. Now,
but it wasn't his team. It wasn't his team. It was not his team. It was Karl Malone's team.
No.
All
right, here's the thing. I do have to say that. Okay, Gonzaga. Okay, I'm biased because I have a lot of family in Spokane. Okay, so it was all about John. Here's the thing with John Stockton. Okay. He was one of the most efficient players of all time. And at that position, he was the leader on the floor. He made Karl Malone more than Karl Malone made John Stockton.
Yeah,
it was also a system
thing.
It was also a system thing with Jerry Sloan where when Karl Malone came into the league, he had to develop that mid-range shot. He didn't have it. The system allowed him with John Stockton. So that's another aspect. So people say it's Karl Malone's team because he has the points. Who's giving him the ball? It's kind of like, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice in a sense. Same concept.
So basically what you're saying is compliments to the chef. That's what I got from what you said.
Well,
what I'm saying is, and you can look at, I'm going to use 2 verses here. Charles Barkley, best point guard of all time. He says John Stockton. And Gary Payton says this. Listen, Gary Payton says he likes talking shit to everybody, but he can't do it because it's 74 feet with John Stockton. Okay? I forgot the show with Kevin Garnett. They were talking about it. He says, what? KG's like, how is he the hardest player guard? 7'4" feet. He's not talking to you. He's just doing his job. He's like, free throw, jump shot, assist, here. Boom. He already has a triple-double.
Yeah.
The problem, and Gary Payton said he gave him that much trouble. He's the hardest player to guard because it's consistent, and he's a smart player. People say he's dirty, but he's not really dirty. He just knows how to actually set picks as a small guard.
So you're saying that Stockton has a better basketball IQ than Steve Nash. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Oh yes. It's not even.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say. I mean, I wouldn't say by far. I would say Steve Nash still has a high IQ. It's just not on the level of what John Stockton is. I remember watching the '97 finals, and the time was ticking down. He thought, all right, he couldn't see over a taller defender. So what does he do? He backs him up to look at the other side of the clock on the other half court. And then he knows how much time he actually really has to do whatever play it was. But I'm saying, I take a two-way player all day. And that was the big difference. A lot of, when you say Steve Nash, John Stockton, and all that, you're really, what we were talking about earlier was really we were comparing teams, but not the actual player. Okay? John Stockton's years he was averaging more assists, more steals, and around the same points of what John Stockton's or Steve Nash's MVP's numbers were. Mm-hmm. And he took half less shots than him, meaning the consistency is what I was talking about. But I know you want to counter. I know you want to counter, so go ahead.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is, if compared to John Stockton's start compared to Steve Nash's start, they're incomparable. You can't really compare, because John Stockton had a way better start to me than Steve Nash. Because when Steve Nash got to Dallas, Dirk had only been in Dallas 2 or 3 years. He hadn't been in Dallas that long because the team had just started like I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and then they drafted these players, and then Steve Nash comes, Dirk Nowitzki comes, and slowly over time the team builds. Then he gets traded, and he has his own team. For somebody to go from, like I said, somebody to go from being under somebody's wing, then boom, you bounce to, okay, now you got your own team. For somebody to take control of that, and then in the next 2 to 3 years, you get an MVP. Then you get Shaq. Then you get Amari Stoudemire. Then you get Leandro Barbosa. You get all these surrounding.
Well, okay,
there's another point to that.
Wait a minute. Okay, and then I'm gonna chime in.
With all those players that you just named, there should be no reason Steve Nash does not have higher career averages and assists. That's a big
John
right there, dude.
Okay. Who was John Stockton's coach his whole career?
Jerry Sloan.
You're Sloan, a defensive-minded coach.
Point in case. Who was Steve Nash's coach his whole career? Mike D'Antoni, Mr. 7.
That's why his offensive numbers are high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
he doesn't play defense. He's never played defense.
Yeah, and that's why Nash was zero team all defense.
John Stockton was guarding Michael Jordan.
He played in a more defensive era.
Gary Payton.
You should expect that. He played in a more defensive era. Around the time that Steve Nash was getting these crazy offensive numbers, the NBA was going through a transition. Basketball was becoming more offensive and less defensive.
And Carlo, when you talk about strength of body, is the reason why Nash broke down compared to John Stockton, endurance and lasting longer. So that's another thing. Because same thing happened to Larry Bird.
Look at his numbers. John Stockton still averaged over 8 assists in his season? 17th season? That's pretty remarkable. Yeah, and also too, I'm looking at the numbers right now. So John Stockton started in the 1984-85 season. Okay, Karl Malone started in the 1985-86 season. Okay, so obviously that's when John Stockton was just grooming in. So he went 5 points in the 84 season, then 7, then 9, and then 11. Okay. But Karl Malone's first All-Star season was in 1987, so his 3rd year in the league. So John Stockton's 4th. So he had 27.7 points a game. That's because John Stockton had 14.3 assists a game. So, like when you say that on the Karl Malone that he made John Stockton or whatever, well, if it wasn't for John Stockton developing his skills, Karl Malone would have never scored all those baskets. And same thing when we talk about Steve Nash's MVP season.
With Amari.
He had Amari Stoudemire, who averaged 26 points a game. Also, he had Sean Marion, who averaged over 18 points a game, too. And also, he had Leandro Barbosa, who averaged over 12. The only person on the Utah Jazz who averaged over 10 points per game in John Stockton's entire career, Karl Malone, Brian Russell for 2 years, and Jeff Hornacek. That's it. So he had all these assist numbers basically off of one guy. So then, you have to go and say, like, wow, that, like, they were hand in hand. That, of course, like every single Batman has a Robin. LeBron had D-Wade. Michael Jordan had Pippen. It wasn't just the Bulls with Michael Jordan. It wasn't just the Heat with LeBron. It wasn't just Kobe without Shaq. Like, everybody has to have a little bit of help. And it's like Steve Nash had 3-4 guys make the All-Star team consistently.
Who was his main guy? Tenure?
Amari Stoudemire, who averaged 25, 26, 27, 25.
That was his beast years.
Yeah, that's amazing numbers right there. Amazing numbers right there. And look at Karl Malone, very similar stats too. But, like when Stockton had his first great year, he goes from 14 points to 22, then to 28. So, of course, it's like as Stockton got better, Malone got better, So it's like, when you talk about how it was like Steve Nash's team in Phoenix, it's like, so he was the floor general, just like John Stockton, except that Steve Nash, he could pass the ball to Marion, Amare, Joe Johnson, Shaq. Stockton, he could pass the ball to Karl Malone and Brian Russell.
Hey, don't forget Greg Ostertag. I just had a
Greg Ostertag.
Hey, that dude was nice.
He averaged 4.8 points a game for his career. Okay, that's not very good.
He was nice on the bench. That's where he was at.
Yeah, I'm nice on the bench.
4.8 points looks real great on the highlight reel if you stretch it.
Yeah, right. I know, but
1 point a quarter.
My argument is that if you go for longevity, it's Stockton, because he played 18 seasons at a really high level. He never. So, when look at his stats here. Okay, so John Stockton. Where is it here? Did you know that he never had a season with under 7 assists? 18 years.
Yeah, he led the game. He led the league in assists for 9 years. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but 18 years. Just let that just settle in. That's just unbelievable.
And remember, he also had 8 straight years of at least averaging 12 assists a game.
Yeah.
And 6 of those 8, he averaged 13.
That's insane.
And 3 steals a game.
Yeah.
There was one game against
wrong that I'm not coming on here and saying that Steve Nash was a bum by any means.
He's a beast.
Because Steve Nash, that's really when I started really watching the NBA on a consistent level. And Steve Nash was the best point guard in the NBA at that time when he was in Phoenix. He really, really was. It's but he really had that 3-4 year peak, and then it was a lot of kind of mediocre seasons. John Stockton, like you said, 9 straight years of over 10 assists. Yeah, season with 13 assists.
Consistency.
14. Yeah, he was there. He was at a high peak for 12 to 15 years.
Yeah. Go ahead, D.
You're trying to convert me into a different religion? Arguments? I don't appreciate this. I'm opponent your excellent research and your fantastic behavior. I don't like it, but I will say this. John Stockton did play in a tougher league that was more defensive. So the fact that his offense was that great is fantastic. Kudos to John Stockton. But like I said, I'm rocking with Nash because the quality that separates the two is 2 MVPs. And we can argue that all day, but John Stockton does not have one.
Charles
That's
Barkley,
really.
Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael
I'm
Jordan,
not saying
Scottie
they're not great
Pippen,
players.
Shaquille O'Neal, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. Those are just a couple names that were in
I
John
understand that.
Stockton's way. Who does Steve Nash have to deal with? Kobe?
Talk about point guards. Talk about
D-Wade?
point guards. Talk about point guards in that era.
Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson is not a point guard. He's a shooting
Who's a
guard.
shooting guard?
Is he a shooting guard? Man,
Yeah,
I
John
shooting guard.
John Stockton had Isaiah Thomas, Magic
Yeah.
Johnson, Gary Payton. There's many more. Tim Hardaway. No, Tim Hardaway's a two guard. No, he's a two guard. Many others, but Steve Nash. I mean, Steve Nash is like growing up. I lean more.
Oh,
to
but
him
that's just that
because of
too.
his
It's not
swag.
just about point guards. It's not. I'm just about point guards all because of the MVP. I mean, back then was Michael Jordan. How many MVPs did Michael Jordan win? 5, right? Wasn't it 5?
Six.
Was it
He's
6
tied with
MVPs?
Kareem.
Okay.
He won 6.
Okay. So then, let's say Michael Jordan would have played in the 2000s. Then Steve Nash, I think he would have had 0 MVPs too. Okay. So that's just like all I'm saying is that like the amount of great players, and you also had Reggie Miller, who was a great player too.
Mm-hmm.
His own teammate John Stockton had Karl Malone. All these great players. So he had definitely a lot tougher competition because I'm thinking about it. 04, 05, that was before KD. That was before Russell Westbrook. That was before really
the speed and strength.
LeBron was LeBron. So was it a watered down NBA? I don't think so. But just the amount of star power individual wise wasn't even close to what John Stockton had to go and deal with.
All right, man. Y'all won, man. I quit, man. I'm just Nah, man. It's all fun and games, man. At the end of the day, I mean,
of course,
I love
man.
Steve Nash. I love John Stockton.
Dude, I do too.
You gotta tell me.
I mean, it's a lot of great.
I'll tell you one thing though. This would be a different conversation if Steve Nash would have started with the Phoenix Suns. All because the Phoenix Suns. Well, I'm not that too because the Phoenix Suns, they were always a really good franchise until the last 6-7 years, So they always had some high caliber players. The Mavericks back then used to be terrible. They were awful. They were one of the worst ran franchises ever. Didn't they have a season where they were 12-70? Just awful. So,
but see, that's ultimately due because the franchise had just started. The Dallas Mavericks weren't around that long when Steve Nash joined that team.
Yeah,
I do think if Steve Nash would have stayed with Dirk, they would have figured it out and won championships.
I think
at least one.
This is
Jason
my theory.
Terry, they would have had a good team.
This is my theory. I believe if Steve Nash would have been so we got 2 years before, and when I say 4 years before the Dallas Mavericks went the 2011 NBA championship. That they win that year. If they would have got Steve Nash 4 years before that to cultivate his talent up until then, I think he would have been fine. And then they would have got Tyson Chandler. They would have got Jason Terry. They would have been able to add more to that. Because you got to think, when you have a player that develops and he has that all-star year, you know what I'm saying? Like that adds character to the team. So therefore, you want to draw more players to it. I think that year they won that championship, if Steve Nash was still there, they would have been able to draw in more. They would have been able to draw in more players. So I just think if Steve Nash was drafted at a later date, his career would look a lot better now because Steve Nash reminds me a lot of Trae Young. He's fantastic offensively, but he doesn't offer you that much, defensively. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, more of a liability on defense. Yeah.
Not necessarily a liability on the defense, but because I know Steve Nash is coachable. And like I said, what it really boils down to
the way they play now, they switch all the time.
Hold on, listen. I'm saying is the difference between Steve Nash and John Stockton is majority of it is coaching. Majority of it is coaching. You can say it's basketball IQ. You can say it's all these other things, but the big defining factor between these two is coaching in the league they played in. John Stockton had a great coach. Steve Nash had a great coach. Really only good at one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean,
but I think we'll all agree on this, though, is without John Stockton, there wouldn't be a Steve Nash.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I think so.
I don't know. My argument when it comes to like on that player and coach is that no player, is going to be good without a bad coach. Look at Michael Jordan. He had Phil Jackson. Look at Kobe Bryant. Phil Jackson. Look at Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Look at even like Kenny Stabler, John Madden. Look at Joe Montana, Bill Walsh. It's like, name me one player who has won with a shit show coach. None.
Exactly.
I know, but I'm also too. What I'm saying though is that you can't take that away from the player. You can't. All because also too. How do you not know that the player didn't make the coach that much greater?
So correct me if I'm wrong. What I got from what you said is that the player should also make the coach better. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because he runs his offense and schemes and defensive assignments based off of the player's skills.
So with that being said, what I'm hearing is Steve Nash, if he was an even better player, he would have made D'Antoni better. Because if you look at the teams that D'Antoni
if he would have played defense. What if he could have played defense even in D'Antoni's non-defensive system?
But playing outside of what the coach wants you to do, don't you think that causes conflict and ruins chemistry?
I'll tell you right now, if Steve Nash was averaging 2.2 steals a game, I guarantee you that D'Antoni probably would have changed his philosophy a little bit.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. D'Antoni is coaching Houston right now with small ball is good. D'Antoni was also coaching New York and tried to do small ball and it wasn't working. So when you try the same system on different teams expecting the same results, that's insanity.
It is.
So it's like, and that was the biggest notch against Steve Nash when they were comparing these two on a different platform, which was, well, Steve Nash was great defensively, but if you can't be great defensively because your coach is telling you to this system and only this system and no other system, how do you expect to win? At the end of the day, I can understand why people say John Stockton is greater than Steve Nash. 100%. He, like you said, he played in the tougher league. He had better coaching. He had better teammates. But if D'Antoni's main focus is nothing but 100% offense, and all you're seeing is 20.2 points here, 24.2 points here, 14.6 points here from everybody on the team, and then Steve Nash manages to rise to the top for those 2 peak years and win, you got to be the most offensive out of all the offensive players because nobody's really fucking playing defense. So how is that fair to Steve Nash? You see what I'm saying? Like I said, the real separation, like I said, to me is the coaching. If Steve Nash would have been able to rise better on the Dallas Mavericks than he would have been able to rise on the Phoenix Suns, even though he did win 2 MVP.
You want to know? You want to know what I'm saying is if John Stockton would have been the point guard for those Phoenix Suns, he would have averaged 20 assists. Oh, yeah.
The talent on those Suns teams.
100%.
Yeah.
He
more
would
talent
average
around him.
20%.
But, yeah, I mean, that's guys, have any more to discuss about this great topic, these 2 Hall of Fame players?
This was a good one, though. I mean, I feel like we definitely won here, Tony. But, D, thanks for the effort. We appreciate it.
Oh, man, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy.
Right now, you're on the floor.
I just want to add, get out of here. I just want to add that on the picture, it looks like they're looking directly at each other from opposite sides of the court.
Man, look how much bigger John Stockton is, though, man. See?
Look at his biceps, bro. Look at those
Look at that chest hair. What a man. I know.
They both got chest hair. And
I know.
Steve Nash is South African. Has nothing to do with anything, but yeah, he's South African.
I thought he was Canadian.
He is, but he was born in South Africa, and then they moved, I think when he was like 3 or 4 to Canada.
Okay.
He probably says A lot.
Okay, I got you.
And apologizes a lot.
Yeah, sorry, eh? Sorry, eh?
Woo.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, D.
But yeah, man. Like I said, y'all get to debate who won. We don't get to pick. You know, we don't get to pick. Y'all get to debate. You know what I'm saying? We can say one side won all we want.
Well, you know, so I actually I did an Instagram poll right before this, and I said who was better, John Stockton or Steve Nash. So 2 females said Steve Nash, probably because you know they don't know who John Stockton is. Yeah. And so of course the only male chooses John Stockton. So you know I'm not saying that that ladies don't know sports and know basketball, but I'm just saying John Stockton is the man.
Steve Nash.
Nash.
I'm one of those friends. Man.
But both of them,
yeah,
both of them were nasty. That's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
But we would like to thank our guest Carlo for coming on, and
thanks for having me, man.
A pleasure. And maybe next time we do when we cover the NFL, maybe you can come back.
Oh yeah,
update us
absolutely.
On your business.
I mean, yeah, I am.
Tap in and keep in touch, brother.
Yeah, I am a stats guy, so you just let me know, and I'll always have my ammo ready.
Perfect.
That was a lot of fun, though. Huh? Oh, what did you say, D?
I was gonna say, man, we got an open position, man. If you want a numbers guy, hey, man, we looking for people, man. You want to be the numbers guy?
I'll be the analytics guy. Yeah, I'll be the sabermetrics guy.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds sexy.
All right, that was the debate of the 2 Hall of Famers, John Stockton and Steve Nash. It went back and forth. So, D, what did you think about that loss you took?
I heard what you said. You're not slick. I heard your words. But I wouldn't really consider it a loss. I gracefully bowed out. But it's really not up to me, man. It's really up to y'all in the comments, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, big shout out to Carlo, you know, for coming through and being a great guest. You know what I'm saying? That's the analytics guy. He came with the numbers to put me in a slumber. You dig what I'm saying? But, yeah, that's pretty much it. It was dope. But it's not up to us. Like I said, it's up to y'all in the comments. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, ring, all that. You dig what I'm saying? Saturday morning traffic, the greatest podcast, not the latest podcast, and we out this thing. Get it.